Have you ever noticed how someone can walk into your life with intensity, excitement, and constant communication, and then vanish without a single explanation? One moment, you're texting every day. They're laughing at your jokes. They're opening up. They're telling you things they claim they've never told anyone. And then suddenly, silence. Not a goodbye. Not a warning. Just a digital death. And you're left asking yourself over and over, what did I do? What changed? Why did they disappear like I was never even real? The truth is, ghosting doesn't happen at the moment they stop responding. It starts long before the final message. It starts in the little cracks, the tiny emotional retreats you barely notice at first. A shift in tone. A shorter reply. A delay that feels slightly off. A laugh that suddenly feels forced. A conversation that used to flow effortlessly but now feels like pulling teeth. It's never random. It's never sudden. It's a silent withdrawal that begins inside their mind long before it reaches your phone. What most people don't understand is that ghosting is not about you. It's about the psychological tension building inside them. When someone ghosts you, it's because something about you, your presence, your honesty, your consistency, your emotional depth, forced them to confront a version of themselves they aren't ready to face. You became a mirror they didn't want to look into. You reflected their fears. Their wounds. Their insecurities. And instead of dealing with those emotions, they choose to run. Some people were never taught how to deal with difficult emotions. They were taught to avoid discomfort. To disconnect when things get real. So when the connection with you starts to deepen beyond surface level, their nervous system panics. Their brain screams, this is too real. Too close. Too risky. And instead of communicating that fear, instead of saying, I'm overwhelmed, or I'm scared of where this is going, they simply disappear. They choose silence because silence is easier than vulnerability. But silence is not neutral. Silence is a weapon. It creates uncertainty. It creates doubt. It forces you into your own head, replaying every detail, analyzing every message, trying to solve a puzzle that has no answer. They know that disappearing without closure leaves you confused, questioning your worth. Psychological studies show that the human brain suffers more from uncertainty than from clear rejection. Ghosting is the perfect storm of uncertainty, and that's why it hurts so deeply. Some people ghost because you got too close. Others ghost because you exposed their emotional weaknesses. But there's another layer, the darker layer, that most people don't talk about. Some individuals use connection as an escape. They enter your life not because they want to build something real, but because they need emotional anesthesia. They're bored. Lonely. Insecure. Hungry for validation. You become the distraction, the dopamine hit, the temporary comfort. But once their emotional void is filled, they disappear. Not because you weren't good enough. But because you served the purpose they needed in that moment. In that sense, you were never part of their long-term picture. You were a bridge. A bandage. A place to hide from their inner emptiness. And once they didn't need that escape anymore, they walked away without warning. Not because they didn't care, but because caring was never their intention in the first place. And that's the harsh truth most people don't want to hear. People with avoidant attachment styles feel safe when things stay shallow. They enjoy the start, the mystery, the flirtation, the emotional distance. But the moment the connection demands responsibility, honesty, or vulnerability, they retreat. Emotional closeness activates their internal alarms. The relationship starts to feel like a trap. And instead of stepping deeper, they step out, quietly, slowly, invisibly, until one day they're gone completely. Ghosting also reveals a person's emotional skill level, and many people are emotionally incompetent. Not emotionally intelligent, emotionally incompetent. They were never taught how to have uncomfortable conversations. They were never taught how to express boundaries. They were never taught how to end things respectfully. For them, confrontation feels like war. Honesty feels like danger. Accountability feels like exposure. So they choose the path that avoids all of that, disappearing. This isn't just immaturity. It's emotional fear. Vulnerability feels too expensive. Honesty feels too risky. And communication feels like a burden. So they choose the exit that costs them nothing, even though it costs you everything. There's another reason people ghost, and it's even more uncomfortable. Sometimes, they didn't ghost because you meant nothing. They ghosted because you meant something they weren't prepared for. Your presence touched a wound they hadn't healed. Your consistency triggered their abandonment issues. Your loyalty reminded them of a love they lost. Your attention awakened fears they buried. You became emotionally significant, and that scared them enough to run. The more emotionally invested someone becomes, the more vulnerable they feel. And for people who fear intimacy, vulnerability is terrifying. The deeper the connection grows, the more they feel the urge to escape. It's not that they didn't feel anything for you, it's that they felt too much. More than they were prepared to handle. And instead of leaning toward you, they retreat into silence because silence feels safe. Here's the darkest aspect of ghosting, the psychological high of disappearing. Some people ghost because it gives them a sense of control. Leaving you hanging puts them in a position of power. They don't have to explain themselves. They don't have to deal with consequences. They don't have to justify their actions. They get to vanish without accountability, and they know that your mind will do all the work for them, replaying moments, blaming yourself, searching for answers they'll never give you. And yet, the story doesn't end with the disappearance. Ghosters almost always come back. Not because they've changed. Not because they suddenly realized your worth. But because silence eventually becomes boring. The emotional high of disappearing wears off. And when life gets lonely again, when they need validation, when they need attention, when they need someone who made them feel safe, they remember you. They remember the warmth you gave freely. They remember the comfort of your presence. And they return, casually, subtly, as if nothing happened. But here's the truth, when someone ghosts you, they reveal everything you need to know about their emotional capacity. They reveal their fear, their avoidance, their immaturity, and their lack of respect. Ghosting is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their wounds. You didn't lose someone good. You lost someone who wasn't prepared for the depth you offered. If someone ghosted you, I want you to answer in the comments. Did they disappear suddenly, or did you feel the shift before it happened? And if you want a full episode on why ghosters almost always return, and what to do when they do, type Part 2 below.